So on this part of the homework, and it's actually the second part of the homework, but I went ahead and downloaded the graph paper, so it popped up. Anyway, you're going to find the distance between those 2 points. And yesterday we used the distance formula, which you can do to check it. But this is a very easy visual way to find distance. And what you're going to do is you're going to go all the way down from this point and stop at the same level of this point, and you're going to draw a right triangle. So it's like if these were streets, you're not going to go on anybody's yard. You're going to go straight down and go only on the streets. We're going to count how many blocks, and you count from the outside of the triangle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would be an 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be a 6. Okay, so when I have two sides of a right triangle, and I need the third side that happens to be the hypotenuse, the biggest side, I'm going to name this C, I can use the Pythagorean theorem to find that third side. So the two sides that I have are legs, so 8 squared plus 6 squared, and it doesn't matter what order you put those guys in, but the C has to be alone. The hypotenuse has to be alone. And so now we get 64 plus 36 equals C squared, and that's 100 equals C squared. And to leave the C alone, you have to square root both sides. So 10 would be equal to C. You will get decimals, and they want decimals to one decimal place, like Delta Math, okay? But this one is a whole number, so C is 10. The distance between these 2 points is 10. The distance formula is derived, which means it comes from the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, that's how they derived it. They use the Pythagorean theorem, but they use it with the different x's. That's if you are given 2 points, you use the distance formula. If you're given a graph, you can use the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, it's 0, 0 to 4, 5. I'm going to draw my triangle, and then count the squares on the outside. So this is 4 squares. And this is 5 squares. And I need to find that third side, which is C. It's always the hypotenuse is always C. And this is a right angle. So we do 4 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. 16 plus 25 equals C squared. 41, and you can put it in the calculator. And how do you leave the C alone? You have to square root. And somebody tell me what that is. It's 6 point something equals C. So the distance between 0, 0 and 4, 5 is 6.4. Okay? We also know that this distance here is 4 and this is 5. The hypotenuse is always the longer side, so it has to be bigger than 4 or 5. If you hadn't square rooted it, does it make sense to be able to draw a triangle with 4, 5, and a 41? That would be too long of a side. So you know if the number's too big, you haven't square rooted it probably, okay? Or you've done something wrong. So now, this I think is a little harder. Yesterday, we found the midpoint. We were given 2 points and we found the midpoint here, okay? They gave us 2 points. Today, they're going to give us one endpoint and the midpoint, and we need to find this guy right here, the other endpoint. So math, the problems are still using the same rule. We still use the same formula, but we so somebody give me a point, any point. 4, 5. And now give me another point.
6, 8.
6, 8. I'm going to put that right here. And then I'm going to put another point, x, y. Okay? This is the end point, and this is the midpoint. They're going to give it to you like that in your homework. This is the other endpoint. So endpoint number 2. This is endpoint number 1. Everybody get that? So when I was doing the midpoint yesterday, we took the two x's of the endpoints, so that would be the 4 and the x, because we don't know the endpoint, and we would say 4 plus x divided by 2 equals the x of the midpoint, equals 6. How do I leave this x alone? What do I get rid of first? What do I do to get rid of the 2? It already is dividing. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. On the left, as ugly as that looks, you're going to wipe out that 2 downstairs. So we've got 4 plus x equals 12. And that looks like an easy problem to do. So we subtract 4 and x equals 8. So we know our first answer is an 8. Okay, so to find the y, we take the y of the endpoint and the other endpoint. So it would be 5 plus y divided by 2 equals this guy, 8, because they're giving you the midpoint. So you kind of have the answer. You need to find the part that's missing. So just like before, we multiply both sides by 2. This is going to be standard procedure. These 2's bite the dust. We get 5 plus y equals 16. You subtract 5, and you get y equals 11. So the answer is going to be 8, 11. So I found out that my endpoints are 4, 5, and 8, 11, right? If my endpoints are 4, 5, and 8, 11, let's see what the midpoint of that is. What is 4 plus 8? What is 4 plus 8?
12.
Divided by 2?
6.
6, so that's the x. What is 5 plus 11?
16.
Divided by 2?
8.
Is the midpoint the guy they told me the midpoint was? 6, 8? So that's how you check your work.